Hello, welcome back to the United Stand. Amorim's biggest test is now upon us. Players are in. The transfer window shut. Two huge games back-to-back in the English Premier League, with Manchester United taking on Man City in the derby, then Chelsea Football Club. But we have injuries that have set in already, a lot of them. How are we going to line up in this derby? And can we start essentially winning more games? Make sure you're hitting that like button, please. Make sure you are subscribing and get the bell notification button turned on as well. Welcome to everyone that's tuning in on this Friday evening. It's great to be back. Hopefully the camera quality is coming through a little better as well. We changed some settings up today, my end. And we should be in a good space. Lucas Vasquez, you know who I am. You've seen me on here before. I'm Terry Fleurs from the Football Terrace, United Stand. I do watch-alongs on That's Football. You know exactly who I am. And if not, then it means you've got to watch this channel a lot. God dab more. But hello, everyone. Hope you're well. Hope you're good wherever you are watching around the world. Really important. It's always important for me to know, where are you watching from? Genuinely love to know where you're tuning in from, what countries, what parts of the world. Let me know right now. So, where do we start? But by the way, as well, most of you are going to be United fans tuning in. There's something else I want to also speak to you about tonight. Something really, really important I want to speak to you about tonight. On Tuesday, I saw one of the biggest lies ever told about Manchester United. But it's a lie that is perpetuated by most rival fans. The media never shut it down. The media never educate people. And I've had enough. I've had enough. And we're going through it tonight in detail. And I want you all to clip it up. I want you all to save it. And I want you all to learn the facts that we are about to go through. So when anybody dares challenge the status and size of this football club, you are ready and loaded to go. Okay? So that's coming later in the show. That is coming later in the show. And we've got to talk about it. Because it's been doing my nut in. Genuinely has been doing my brain in. We're going to be going through it and a little later in the show. But look, really important game this weekend. And I fancy Man United to win. I think Man United will do it. United, by a country mile in the opening 3 games of this season, haven't just had the most XG. We've been the best team in the league at counter-attacks. Or, I've actually phrased that wrong. That's an oversimplification. That's a reductionist view. It's not like counter-attacks. We have been the best in the league by a country mile at creating attacking situations with 10 or less passes. We're in the top 5, top 6 for creating attacking moments and creating shots and attempts on goal when the build-up plays had more than 10 passes. But we are the best by a country mile in the Premier League of 10 passes or less. And why is this significant, you may ask? Because Man City are hugely susceptible to transitional attacks and direct attacking. So 1, 2, 3 passes are on the attack. Mbeumo, I think, is going to be absolutely imperative for us winning. And I think we can do it. I think we can. City, I respect them. I think Pep Guardiola is one of the greatest managers to ever grace the game of football. I'm not going to play him down. I'm not going to lie about him. I'm not going to pretend that he isn't fantastic. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. I won't do that. It's not going to happen. But I fancy us to win. Now, what you'll get is all what I like to call the amoebas. You'll get the amoebas. You'll get the toaster people. Why toaster people? What's the comment? Why toaster people? Toaster people because they're so silly, I wouldn't trust them to make toast, is why I call them toaster people. You'll get them go, Terry's writing City off. I'm not writing City off. City have the capability and the firepower to beat Man United. Man United also have the ability to self-destruct, and City could win. So by no means am I saying it's impossible City can win, we're clear of them, that we're going to smash them, that it's going to be easy, that it's going to be comfortable. They're not the words I'm using. So twist it up whichever way you want, but the biggest Manchester United community in the world is going to be hearing this, not just at face value, but understanding it fully. Man United have a fantastic chance of winning. And we will come back to that a little more later, but I am concerned about something. I am concerned that Dalot is out. I'm exceedingly concerned about Mason Mount and Cunha. Now, with Cunha, yes, the manager has said that he probably would volunteer to play tomorrow, and he might be okay. I'm glad that we're not rushing him back. Although I would love him in this team against City, I feel as though we're in a position whereby you rush him back and that hamstring snaps, you could miss him for 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 4 months. And we don't want to do that. We've got to be very careful here. We haven't got to be greedy. By the way, I haven't already said, we also want to talk about Lemaines later as well. I didn't mention that. Lemaines coming up later and why it's absolutely imperative we don't start him against Man City. It's imperative we don't start him. And I'm going to tell you why later. And you are going to agree with me. You're going to understand. We're coming back to that. So I hate the fact we've got these 3 injuries. I'm hugely concerned about Mason Mount, though, because the manager loves him. I'd love to have this conversation with Ruben and say, listen, I'll sit down, have a little drink. All right, boy, sit down. And be like, listen, why'd you keep playing Mount? And I know what he would explain to me. He'd talk about he needs the press. He loves the relentless work rate. He does whatever he is told. These are commodities. These are attributes. These are so important, so massively, massively important to football managers. It's unbelievable. You can't play that down. It's so, so important indeed to them. But I would listen to all of it and I would respond instantly with, but he can't stay fit. And that's the truth of the matter. He cannot stay fit. Starts the first 3 games of the season. He actually plays quite well, but he's already out. How long is he out for? Don't know. Could be 1 game. Could be the next 10 games. Could be the next 20 games. How long's a piece of string? However, I understand the manager is probably still going to praise him up. The club's still going to praise him up. We've got to try and keep him as sellable as possible. And it's very hard to sell something that's broken. It's like trying to sell a Category D car that has no wheels or a steering wheel or a windscreen or brakes. It's very, very hard indeed. In terms of Dalot, I'm not too worried. He doesn't get injured too often. But that is 6 injuries already this season. And within a season where we're only playing 1 game a week, I am concerned that we've already had 6 injuries. Zirkzee is kind of coming back from the injury last season, so maybe I'm being a little harsh there. But I am concerned because we need to be going into every single one of these Premier League games with the absolute maximum velocity, maximum aggression, maximum intensity. Many of our competitors for European positions, because we've got to aim at least to get back into Europe. We need that financially. A lot of them are going to be playing 2 games a week, including Carabao Cup and European games. We don't have that. Now, I know we might be going off to play some of these lucrative friendlies to earn money. I actually back that, by the way. Clubs very regularly play behind closed doors friendlies when they don't have European football or midweek games. It's very, very normal. So as long as we're not travelling too far, which it will fatigue the players, I'm not against the club making 10 to 20 million pounds in income this year by, hopefully we can do some in England, but it'll probably mean us doing a bit more travelling. But having said that, well, if we haven't got a Premier League, we play a Premier League game on a Saturday one week, and then the next week we're not playing until the following Monday. And by the way, United will probably have a lot of games rescheduled to Mondays because we're not in Europe, so it's great for TV viewing figures, and we're not playing any Carabao Cup games. So it will make perfect sense for Sky to look at this, Sky TV here in the UK, and say to the Prem, listen, let's get United on the Monday. That way, what Sky could create is a catalogue of Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday games, and then a Tuesday and Wednesday full of Carabao Cup matches. On European nights, you could literally have 7-day-a-week football with big teams playing almost every day. So watch out for United getting moved there. But I'm not overly against it. What is this here? Skeptical Hippo says, I've got a petition to get Erik ten Hag arrested. Will you sign it? Lol. No, but funny. So from my point of view, I am worried about the injuries because we need to be ready. We need to be raring to go. We need to be on it. We need to be aggressive in these games. And I'm honestly a little bit scared. I'm honestly a little bit scared that we're going to have big injury problems again this year. I hope we don't. I hope that this is a little bit of a hangover from last year. Maz didn't have too many injury issues last year, so he should be available. I just hope. I hope, because if we start getting, Bumo's missing here, Cunha's missing there, Šeško's never fit. I mean, it becomes almost irrelevant that we spent any money if these players aren't fit. And maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic, and maybe there's a little bit of PTSD with the problems we've had and how bad we've been and the injury crises we've had. But I am worried. I genuinely am worried about it, and I'd love to get your views and your opinions on that. Nick B here says that if Šeško and Mainu don't start, it's not good for them or us. Look, I'm not someone that... Look, I have opinions on starting lineups like everybody else. I always have and I always will. That being said, how do I say this correctly? That being said, the result and performance is what I'll focus on. So, for instance, the first starting lineup against Arsenal, a lot of us were disappointed to see Mason Mount start. A lot of us were disappointed to see Dalot start at right back and not Ahmad. But we actually had a very, very good first half of football and a very decent second half of football as well. So although I moaned about the starting lineup, and because the result didn't go our way, people could say it was wrong. But I think performance-wise, it was very good. With Šeško not starting would concern me more, depending upon who goes into the 10 role. For instance, if Bruno goes into the 10 and Šeško starts, but we go with Ugarte and Casemiro in the midfield, I'm worried about Mainu's future. That'll give me a bit of worry, as an example. If neither Mainu or Šeško starts, I get where you're coming from. But then equally, if we go and perform well with them on the bench, then they come on from the subs bench and they perform well and we win, are we going to rewrite history? Probably not. Amorim is going to keep his streak against Pep. I hope so, because if he keeps his streak against Pep and remains unbeaten and hopefully wins, it will be 2 wins on the bounce in the Prem for the first time under the manager, and our first time in well over a year. And I think United need that. I think it's a really good. It's an interesting point. Sport is so much about confidence. Confidence plays a really, really important part in this game. I come from a fighting background. I did karate, and then I did points. I did kickboxing, points fighting when I was a kid, very much like Venom Page. I wasn't as good, but just that style. I did Thai boxing for a while to a decent level. I've done MMA. And I trained at very good gyms. I competed at a decent level once I went into full contact. Never a world level fighter, not even a European level fighter at full contact. I want to be very, very clear, but I grew up in that environment. And I came across this at kind of club and national level, right through to world level. So many fighters, until they got hurt, until they got knocked out, until they felt power that like never before, they had this confidence where they just got through fights. And I had a friend who was a little bit of a cavalier fighter, never had his hands up. The chin was always a little bit exposed, but he just used to. He's rope-a-dope. His ability to dive and duck and evade the punches was fantastic. And then one fight he got caught. He just got caught on the chin and got absolutely laid out unconscious. He was actually unconscious for about the better part of a minute. I always remember being back in the dressing room with him. This was in an era where people didn't go off to hospital after this. It should have done, but he didn't. And he sat there, and we spoke for a moment. He went and had a shower, came back into the room, sat down, didn't speak for about 2 or 3 minutes. And I shouldn't laugh, really, but it's just the culture of when you're in the fighting game. We just used to laugh at things like this. I think maybe it was a way of handling it more than anything. He went, I can't wait for tonight. I said, wait for tonight? What do you mean, Alex? He said, my fight. Completely forgot that he'd even been out there, knocked unconscious, come back to the dressing room. His memory came back. Of course it did, and he's fine and well now. But he was never the same fighter after that. He could he like lost something in himself, and he could have gone on to a very high level. So having been around it, confidence is key. So picking up a result against Manchester City, cementing that Burnley win, hopefully with a decent performance. You go into the Chelsea game at home, the crowd more buoyant, the players trying to score goals feeling a little bit more relaxed because you've got a couple of wins behind you. The defenders being more relaxed because the attackers are more likely to score goals, meaning they'll want to be perfect, but there isn't a necessity to because we've got players that will score goals. These things can create a little bit of a cyclone. They can get bigger and bigger and bigger as they eat things up and you can become a stronger beast. And that's one thing that we never really did last year. So many good performances, didn't score the goals, didn't win the games, confidence didn't grow, and it became a bit of a rut. So from my perspective, I agree with that comment loads. Keeping the streak going, I think, is very, very, very important indeed. We have a comment here that's come in from Ryle, who's Super Chat. Says, "Hi, Terry." He says, why can't I read it properly? Why is it doing that to me? Sorry. It says, "Hi, Terry. Great to see you on the channel, mate. Love TFT as well. Thank you very much for watching my channel. Do you agree with Ruben keeping Amorim? Why keep players who don't want to be here? Do you agree? Keep up the great work, my friend." Really good Super Chat. Sometimes in life you have to... I get called out a lot in the social media sphere for what they call the if, buts and maybes. Terry, why do you care so much about if, buts and maybes? Why is it important? Just deal with the actual facts. And I sometimes feel a little bit... What's the word I would use? I don't ever want to try and... I just sometimes sit there and go, what are you talking about? How are we ever meant to fully understand a situation? How are we meant to understand and scrutinize an opinion to test its validity without an if, a but, a maybe, explain that, break it down? Would you apply it to this? Would you apply it to that? I know people also hate whataboutery, and there's a time where whataboutery is wrong. For instance, if you say to a Chelsea fan, what's your thoughts on you cheating, and they say, well, what about City cheating? Well, in that moment, going straight to City, that is the wrong type of whataboutery. We're asking you about you, explain your situation, your circumstance. You may then challenge me back saying, yeah, well, did you have the same energy for Man City? What did you say when they were caught? And then I can explain it. It's part of a conversation, though. And it's fair to at some stage ask that back. So I bring that up and I break it down because your point here about was it right to keep Mainu? We have to ask questions. And I'm sure Ruben has asked these questions. Did the player ask to leave because he doesn't want to be at Man United? Did the player ask to leave in a way that was respectful, saying, listen, boss, I love being here. I want to play here. I want to play for you, but you're not giving me game time. And I'm so desperate to play. And if you really, I know you keep saying publicly that you want me, but if you really don't fancy what I do, I'd love a loan. That's a very different message to, I hate you, Ruben. I want out of this club. I can't stand the way we play. Loan me now. Hopefully you can hear two distinct and exceedingly different approaches to that to that situation. And I think for me, when Ruben speaks about he doesn't want players that don't want to be here, my interpretation is he doesn't want players at the club who have zero desire to play his style of football, can't play his style of football, are not dedicated to working hard. Now, if he sat down with Kobbie and said, Kobbie, listen, I know you haven't played the first two games, but I'm going to give you this opportunity and that opportunity. You've got this game coming up. You will get a chance. I just need you to keep working hard. And Kobbie's gone, all right, boss, I'm sorry that I've had a moment of madness. And that's what it may have been. It may have been a confidence crisis in the player. It could have been a moment where he said that. Famously, we had it before. And Fergie apologised. The second time Wayne Rooney supposedly asked to leave the club, he didn't. He asked Fergie why he wasn't being used in the big games. And if you remember the big games against Real Madrid in the Champions League, I actually think Fergie was sort of looking beyond him a little bit. I think Fergie was a master. Didn't do as great a job in his latter years. I think, we should have probably moved Vidic and Rio on earlier than we did and genuinely had world-class players ready for when they were gone. But what he was a master of is going, right, that player's still at his peak, but he maybe won't be in 2 or 3 years' time. And we actually saw it was true. 2 or 3 years later, Rooney was a very good player, but he wasn't at the peak of his powers. And I think that if Fergie was still in charge, Fergie would have cashed in on Rooney at his peak, noticing that he was starting to fade, and invested that money into a player at the top of his game, or just before the top of his game. But Rooney sort of said, well, if you're not going to play me, then maybe I'll have to find a new club. That's a very different conversation to handing in a transfer request. I've had conversation with staff members before that have gone, look, I really want a promotion. I really want a pay rise. And I might say, look, at the minute, we can't afford it, or at the minute, there's no opportunities in the business. However, give me until X date, that we've got some investment coming in, or there's a couple of people leaving, or I've got a new project that's starting where I'm going to need additional support, and what I might be able to do is look at kind of moving you into a role in that where we can get a promotion through, etc. You know, this happened multiple times across multiple years in multiple companies. That person will say, okay, cool, great. I will wait till then. But if it doesn't happen, I'll be open and honest with you now. I may need to start looking for a new job because me and the wife want to start a family, or I want to save some money to buy a house and I just can't do it on this salary. I view that very differently to somebody walking into my office saying, there's my 1 month's notice, I'm leaving. I don't think those two conversations are the same. Now, you have some really cynical people. You have some really pedantic people. You have some amoebas who will just go, no, same thing, no different. And it just isn't in reality. So I'm not too worried. Mystic Recipe here says, big fan, Terry. Keep talking sense. Keep up the good work. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that a lot. Anthony here says, Cunha's injury could give Mainu a chance to play with Bruno when Bruno moves up the field. But will Amorim do that? Probably not. Well, look, I mean, it works both ways. I want to see him given an opportunity with Mount and with Cunha out. It would be shocking if he wasn't given starts, in my opinion, in the next 2 games. But it does work on the other side, and this is where Man United fans have got to be fair and consistent. If Kobbie gets the starts and Kobbie doesn't perform, we must call that out. He can't get the opportunities to play and not deliver, and then we keep blaming the manager. Because that's my fear in this. My fear is this. Kobbie doesn't play, the rhetoric will be, play Kobbie, watch us be better. We play Kobbie, if he doesn't perform, it will be, system's killing Kobbie. Now, if you think the system isn't going to work irrespective, why are you moaning about Kobbie not playing? If you know, and this is where you want people to be intellectually honest. Intellectually honest in the conversation. Because if you think the system is so bad that it's going to damage and ruin and make Kobbie look bad, why are you pushing for him to start? Doesn't make any sense, does it? 0 sense. If you go from one of those opinions to the other, play Kobbie, play Kobbie, play Kobbie, we need Kobbie, we need Kobbie, we need Kobbie, we're better, we're better, we're better. Oh, God, Kobbie and the team were bad today. The system's killing Kobbie, man. I always knew this manager's system was bad. Didn't I tell you how bad it was? You'll see that from people. Well, if you knew the system was bad and would hurt Kobbie's game, why are you asking for him to play? It makes no sense. And this is when it comes to having the discord around this. And by the way, I think Kobbie will make us better. I think Kobbie will perform. I love Kobbie Mainu. But I'm talking about fans having honest discourse around this situation. I think it's really, really important. I think it's really, really important indeed to do that. Who should play besides Kobbie? Castle Ugarte, really. Against Man City, I'd go Casemiro. Better passer. Neither are great. But this is where those, I mean, again, the disingenuous, the haters will say we need to play some like spam and grenade football. No, for me, what we're going to need in those games is players that are very good at releasing the ball quickly into those channels. And I think Cass will be the pick. I'd go with Cass and Kobbie in the middle. And I'd go with Bruno and Mbeumo in the 10s. Bruno dropping in deep when we need him to. That's what I would do, personally. Carl here says that if we keep changing players, how can they get settled? Well, there's this fault. Yes, you want to create relationships by playing people as regularly as possible. but you also need to have rotation. There's going to be, because if you don't rotate, everyone that's sitting on your bench or in your reserves are going to be stale. And when they do get a chance, because of an injury, they're going to be a little bit flat-footed, which is why I think these midweek friendlies that might be worth some money are probably important for us to do, especially if we can make them a little bit more competitive by having them on television, maybe going out, we might go and do a couple of days training in Dubai and then play a game against one of the big Saudi teams, have it televised, a bit more competitive. These things are going to probably be important for keeping people sharp. But I do agree, you don't want too much. Excuse me, sorry. Terry, why are you so confident for Sunday? Because I think the way we play football in these last 3 games is key. And when I spoke earlier about people being intellectually honest, a lot of the same people that you'll see right now that will be saying, I don't care about our performances, I only care about the victories. Did you notice how when we beat Burnley, they didn't care about the victory, they were moaning about conceding and everything else? These people are fundamental liars. So it doesn't mean they don't make good points in the instance they're in, but they're charlatans. Because they won't keep it a buck. They won't keep it 100. They will literally change their tune. And if we change managers tomorrow and the new guy was someone they backed, and we were playing bad, and we were playing really well but not winning, they'd say performances will get consistency. If we bring in a new manager they hate, who's performing badly but winning, it will be, no, we need performances because the wins will fall off. When they get what they want, they will make excuses for as long as possible as to why it will be okay. When they have something they don't want, they will bend their logic. 1 minute performances are the most important thing, then wins are the most important thing. And if the flips get script, if the script flips, like against Burnley when we won the game, it was, but performance wasn't great, was it? And I know we all want the utopia of brilliant performances and wins. I understand people want that, but we can all see the hypocrisy and the lies in what they're saying. So why am I confident though? Because their performances have been good. And I think the way we play football in the Premier League so far this season, I think it's kryptonite to Man City. Now, look, we might lose, and then everyone goes, Terry, you said you thought we were going to win. You were so wrong. If we don't win, a big part of it will be us not taking our chances. The system, though, will create very good opportunities to either score goals or create goal-scoring opportunities. If we fluff our lines, again, I'm going to blame the players. I'm going to blame the players far more than the manager in that circumstance and in that scenario. But maybe that is just me. One of the other things I wanted to mention as well, we're talking about injuries. Have you seen the news today about Lautaro Martinez? Lisandro Martinez, sorry. Would you renew his contract? Genuine question. Would you renew his contract? And if so, why? Would you renew his contract? I'm waiting for your comments. I'm not going to say another word. Nope. Nick B says no. Robinson says no. G9 says yes. Do we have an option? We have an option on all our contracts. Greg, the mod tonight for United Stand, says yes. On ability, it's yes all day for me. On availability, it's a big fat, let's wait a minute. It's a big fat, let's wait a minute. 2 bad knee injuries. Let's actually look, rather than me trying to remember it all. Bad knee injuries, all sorts of things that have gone wrong with him. Great player, though. I rate him so much. A lot of people don't. I think he's fantastic, and I think in a 3 at the back, I think he's even better. But let's just look at his injury record. So currently, obviously, out with a cruciate injury. And no one quite knows when he's back. There's talk. I mean, he's already been out, by the way, for 300 and it says here 360. No, he's due. It was due to be out here, according to Transfer Market, for 366 days and miss around 43 games. There is some reports he might be back a little sooner. But you've got to remember, last season, before that, he had a back injury. So up until that February, he was actually fit. He had a little back injury. Season before that, though, 23-24 season, he missed 30 days with a strained calf. He had another knee injury that season, which kept him out for 55 days. He had a foot injury also earlier on that season from the February until the January. From the September until the January, which kept him out for 160 days. Now, of course, that was connected to the metatarsal injury where the surgery wasn't done right. So some of that is on the medical team. But this is someone who, since he's been at Manchester United, has missed a combined total, and I'm adding that very quickly, of 180, 230. By the time he comes back, in fact, I'm just going to add this up properly. Let me add it up according to this here. This is days out injured, right? So let's add all this up together. Plus 30, plus 3. Let's just say it ends up being out for 280 days on this new one. Let's just average it there. Oh, shit, what have I done? Oh, you fool. You fool. I ended up adding 2,000 days to it. I'm very sorry, people. I hit the wrong button on the counting cumulator. Right, let's do this again. 280 days, right. So it comes in at 552 days. Game-wise, you are looking at 30, 40, 50, 56, plus around 40 games. You are looking at the better part of 100 games missed, and he's been at the club for 3 years. I know this is into this season, so this season would be his fourth year at the club by the end of it? When did he join Manchester United? Why don't I remember this? Let me just get the information. He joined in 2022, so he's been here 3 years. So it'll be 3.5 years by the time he's back. Now, on average, clubs like United play like 55 games a year. Right, so times that by 3.5 seasons, even though this season's a little bit less. Okay, that's 192 games in that period of time Man United would have been available for. This man has missed like half those games of injury. If you say an average of 55 games a season in 3.5 years, which is about how long he's been at the club by the time this injury is over, he's missed over 100 games. Did I say 100 games or did I say that wrong? I swear it was about 100 games. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Yeah, it'd be about 180 games. Sorry, it says here 43 plus 7 plus 10 plus 26 plus 14. Yeah, about 100 games. I didn't misremember, sorry. He's missed better part of 50%. And obviously there's a poll that's running right now as well. He's missed the better part of 50% of our games. Where we need to be mindful is Phil Jones and Luke Shaw. We should have cashed in on those guys so much earlier than we did and invested the money. Doesn't matter how good someone's ability is. Missing half the football matches that you can play is no good for what we're trying to do. A new contract means high salary. So I look at it this way. He has got until June 2027, 2 years, and there'll be an option in that. Excuse me. So my point of view is this. I would sit down with a player and say, we want you. I want to keep you. But essentially what you should be asking for from him is 12 months with no major injuries. A little strain here, a little strain there. We need to get 12 months out of him where we go, there's no real issues here. Now, look, the metatarsal injury can just happen. The next big foot injury was because the surgery was bad. You can't really blame the player for that. But it's the knock-on effects not playing for so long can have on you. Even the cruciate knee ligament injury was a bit of was the same knee that I think, was it the same or opposite knee? But it was a little bit of a bad luck. But it's how he comes back from this. Some players are never the same. Some players get a recurrence really quickly. And the last thing we want to do is give someone another 2 years on 100,000+ a week, and then his knees keep going, and you're stuck with him paying that salary. As callous as that sounds, I think we have to be very, very, very careful indeed. But let's see what you've got to say here. Martinez doesn't develop injuries. You get them all over. You got them all from bad tackles. Yeah, I mean, the cruciate knee ligament one was just innocuous, which they normally are. But it's still the fact that you've got those injuries, and it's the knock-on effect they have on your body. Girly Vids here says, love him, but we seem to be carrying so many players with long-term reoccurring injuries. Doesn't matter how good they are if he's always out, the same as Mount and Shaw. But Head says no, Hart says yes. Yeah, I agree, and it's frustrating because players are judged on their availability. And I thought the first 3 or 4 games under Ruben, I thought he was really poor. And I was like, oh, no, this ain't going to work for him. Then he started to look really good. And I remember thinking to myself, The Liverpool game was a standout example. Rangers was another. And he was one of only a handful of players where I was like, yeah, he's starting to get it. Would we have won some more games if Lissandro was fit? Probably. His ability to come into the... And I think where we've missed Lissandro is where we see that hole in the midfield. Because he's confident enough to step into that area because he can cover the ground quick enough. But also, he's comfortable on the ball. And it's one of the differences in the Burnley game. Luke Shaw was stepping into that area. And we need to encourage the midfield, the centre-backs to do it. And Lissandro could do that perfectly. But look, I look at it this way. I wouldn't give him a new deal now. I'd wait until he's back and see how he's playing. So much love for Licha, but has to be a no, is what Red Devil Girl says here. Lee Dixon says we've got to move injury-prone players on. Simple as we've carried Luke Shaw since his broken leg. I agree with that. We need to let Luke Shaw, Mount and Licha leave when their contracts expire. They hardly play any football. I don't consider him injury-prone. A lot of his injuries were done on himself. Yeah, maybe he's not injury-prone in the sense of it's not like soft tissue and the groin going, the hamstring going, the quad going. But often when you start to get these big injuries, those things kind of come later. Why don't we let someone that's injury-prone leave? Another Shaw situation is what Maney says here. Simon says he's lost his edge with the injuries he has suffered. Really not the same player we bought. So I thought he was coming into his own before. This is where you could be right. I thought he was coming into his own before the knee went. So, a little bit like Gabriel Jesus at Arsenal. Do you remember Gabriel Jesus at Arsenal last year? He had the bad knee injury, came back. He weren't looking great. And then he scored this goal against Palace and he started looking better and better and better and better. And I remember we played them in the FA Cup. And I never want to see a player go off injured. I don't wish that on any opponents because I always feel like God is going to revisit that on me and my team. So I don't really try and put that energy out there. But when he went off injured, I wasn't happy he got injured, but I was relieved he wasn't on the pitch anymore. And that's how I felt about Martinez. I looked at it very much like he was just starting to find his feet again, get his rhythm, and his knee went. So you could be very right. If that knee doesn't, if he's lost his edge, then again, there's no point keeping him. If this is a very hard injury to come back from. The angry Jawa here says would absolutely renew. It's bad business to let players enter the last year of their contracts. Fundamental error United have been guilty of. It's about leverage. And I understand that perspective as well, to be fair with you, that there is truth in that. Amorim will only lose against City because of Bayindir. He's so weak, loose hands, and refused to leave the summer because no one wanted him. We've got to start him though, haven't we? Timestamp this for me, please, Greg. We have to start Bayindir. We cannot start Lamens. We can't. And every Man United fan knows this. Every single Manchester United fan on planet Earth knows we cannot start him. We can't. It can't be done. Absolutely cannot be done. And I know you all agree with me. All of you. Every single one of you fundamentally agrees with me. You might not know that you agree with me, but you do agree with me. There's a reason that all summer, I loved it all. This is one of those rumours that all summer. I sat here on the United stand and said it. Do you remember when all the stories came out? United weren't looking at a goalkeeper. They weren't thinking about a goalkeeper. Onana's number one. Bayindir is going to challenge him. They might buy a youngster, but they're not really thinking. Ben Jacobs was saying different. If you went and listened to The Athletic and other outlets, United weren't even thinking about it. And I knew they were lying. One, we tried to loan Emi Martinez. But when Ben Jacobs told us in around June that United might bring in a number two, a really talented young number two, to challenge for the number one position, I smelt what they were doing straight away. I could see it a million miles away. It might be the salesman in me. But we are... How do I say this in the right way? We've given this Lemaines deal with no fanfare. None. Why? This is a smart move by the club. Because the fans and I don't mean you specifically, you know the type of fan I'm talking about. Right now, they're baying for blood. They're fuming. They expect quality now. No patience. We must deliver now. I'm hungry. I'm tired. We've been bad for years. It makes me not look like a man because I support a bad team, and it makes me look like I'm weak. You know those people? Onana, I counted 31 errors leading to goals. Not the stats, but genuine bad attempts to catch crosses, diving the wrong way, weak shots that went in, letting crosses bounce past him and go in. Genuine errors leading to goals. 31 I counted in his time at the club. Horrendous. Man United fans in our anger, collectively, because some haven't done it, but we are a collective in some regards, have created this weird agenda that we need a goalie that doesn't make mistakes. We need a goalkeeper that catches every cross. We need a goalkeeper that doesn't let us down. The problem is, in reality, is we've almost created a... In your life, have your fantasies ever lived up to the reality? And I don't mean anything... I don't mean anything on the naughty nature. And even then, you might use that as an example. Don't write it in the comment section. Keep it to yourself. Have you ever had a fantasy? It might be something that you and someone have been texting or voice noting about for days, weeks, and months. And you're like, oh, I can't wait for Friday. You wake up Saturday and you're like, it was good, but the text messages were better, right? Have you ever thought about a night out? And you and your boys, you and your girls, you and your group, and you're building it up, Oh, I can't wait to go out. It's going to be lit. It's going to be the best night out ever. Why is it going to be the best night out ever? Well, I didn't go last time, and everyone told me how brilliant it was. And this time we've got this dude coming, that dude coming. We're going out in a party bus. It's going to be the best night ever. You know, you set the expectations that high, and then what happens is you always feel a bit flat because it never meets the fantasy. How often have you been waiting for a movie? Forever. Oh my God. It's or a TV show. Final season of Game of Thrones. Oh my God, it's finally here. A decade of watching the show. It's going to be crazy. Half the reason that final season bombed is because it was the final season and the expectations were so high. And there was no way to recover it because once it's done, it's done. Flat. That psychology is there. Nights out. The horizontal hula, holidays. There's so many... we all do this in different parts of our lives. It's going to be epic. Often in life, the reality never, ever meets the fantasy or the expectation of that fantasy in your mind. And we're going to do this now with Lemains. This is going to happen to Lemains. People have built up this fantasy, this delusion, and we're labouring under it. Goalies make no mistakes. Goalies don't cost us goals. Goalies save every shot. Goalies shouldn't cost us. In my lifetime, I've been so lucky to see Schmeichel, Van der Sar, and David De Gea. Forget the first 18 months with De Gea when he was still being nurtured and learning. In their pomp, there was an argument for all of them being the best goalkeepers in the world. They're all in the debate to be Man United's greatest ever goalkeeper. But every single one of them, every single season, made massive mistakes with their feet. Even Schmeichel, in the days where you weren't playing with the ball at the back. Remember a game against Barnsley where he sliced a clearance and it almost went behind him and someone tapped at him. All of them. Go back to the treble-winning season and watch the first 3 months of it and look how Schmeichel performed in goal. Go back and watch it. You youngsters that weren't born or too young to remember, awful. He improved, though. Van der Sar, De Gea. Forget De Gea when he was waning. I'm talking in their pomp. There was still a good 5, 6, 7 times a season when we conceded and you went, oh, goalie should do better there. That's normal. What I'm pushing back against at the moment, what's important for me in football is I think we're creating these expectations. I think we are creating these fantasies. We're creating these standards that have never been met before in the history of football on a large scale, okay? And over a consistent period of time. We're creating the standard. And whether we're doing it knowingly or we're labouring under an illusion or a delusion, is we're creating expectations that can never be met. And therefore, everyone's staying angry. Oh, my God. And this is why I think we're right not to start Lemains. Now, he could come in and be perfect, and we go, oh, thank God. But I still think that expectation of never making mistakes is going to grow. And if we build him up as a new number one, straight in the team, come on now, Onana's gone, there'll be no problems. Let's say he does concede a bit of a soft goal. That anger and frustration that we've had towards our goalies for years now is going to go into overdrive. Oh, you remember that meme of that old lady when she says, oh no, not another one. It's going to be like that, but it's going to be like that injected with gamma rays, the Hulk style, Red Hulk style. Everyone's going to lose their minds. And that has the potential to damage this young man's confidence, and he may never recover. We as the fans are the reason we shouldn't start Lemains. What the club are doing, and I probably shouldn't out this, but I'm going to, is they've built it up as a number 2 young developing goalkeeper the whole time, and I don't think it is. I think they want this player. They're going to bring him in, and Bayindir is going to play a few games and maybe a few mistakes. And what that's going to do is, well, Ruben, why haven't you played the new goalie? Why haven't you played the new goalie? Well, he's a young player. We told you all along. He's here for development. He's not ready yet. He's not ready yet. We don't believe he's ready to be the number 1 yet. Words to that effect. Then when he gets an opportunity, Man United fans will have a different outlook, which will be, look, you're not the number 1. Bayindir's been bad. We're behind you, man. No matter what happens, we're behind you. Even if there's a few dodgy moments, we're going to go, come on, lad, because you're not meant to be the number 1 yet. Aiden Heaven, when he came in, no one on his first game was like, come on in, show us what you got. No rival fan was like, come on in, let's see what this new young centre-back's all about. They did it with Lenny Yoro because he came in for big money and there was a fanfare. When players come in for lower amounts of money and you don't create a fanfare, it lowers that expectation. And I know some will say, Terry, but you said you want players that can handle playing for Manchester United. I do. And I would have loved for us to have gone out and bought one of the best goalkeepers in the world to come in straight away. But we can't get them at the minute. We couldn't get one. And we've gone down this road. So I do understand the reasoning, okay? I absolutely understand the reasoning as to why people want to see him start, because we're sick and tired of these goalkeepers. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I think starting him straight away could end up ruining him. One mistake, and those toxic, sometimes putrid fans online are going to lose their minds. Because they talk about all they care about is results, then they want perfection. They've created a standard in their mind for how they want their team to play that we've almost never done it consistently at every moment of every game. Like, you ever hear those fans that go, I want my team to dominate for 90 minutes? You ain't watched Man United your whole life then. I've watched United since the late 80s. Very few games did we dominate consistently for 90 minutes. In nearly every game I ever watched, there was periods and spells in the games where the opponents had the ball, had chances, had opportunity to where, that was close. It happens all the time. Suddenly there's this standard that's created in football. Oh, I want to dominate for 90 minutes. You're a moron. This ain't FIFA where you might be able to do that. This is real life. But Pep teams did it. Yeah, that's the rarity, bruv. I want it as well. Same guys that they moan about robotic football. Oh, I don't want a manager that's regimented in style. I want a manager that's flexible. Oh, before you want what Pep does, or a version of that. Yeah, but I want it different. That you mean they're like a dog chasing a car. They're never going to catch it, and even if they did, they wouldn't know what to do with it if they got it. Legitimately, trust me, it's absolutely crazy. Let's have a look at some of your comments here. Why Man Utd registered for the under-21s and not the senior team? I don't know, and I'll be honest with you, I don't care. There'll be a technical reason for it, but I wouldn't be too worried. This is Terry. What's your tipple of choice this evening? Diet Coke, a little Diet Coke. That's all that's in my glass is a little Diet Coke. We have to play him though. Bayindir is a big liability. He is a big liability. I don't trust the Man United fans, though. Man United fans... Listen, by the way, if we beat City, though, say we lose to City and the new goalie made a mistake, same guys that lose their minds, Ineos out, Amorim out, the new goalie's rubbish, let's get rid of Bruno, let's assassinate everyone, let's lose our minds. You know those guys? If we beat City and play quite well, they'll be the same guys going around giving it the absolute big un like there's something to do with it, like they've been supporting the team. They're the biggest voices of, like, they're the biggest mouths when it comes to giving it the big into rivals when we win a game or something looks good. And they're the biggest self-deprecators. There's no balance in these individuals. And that's why I'd stay away from it personally. But that's just me. My fantasy is having a goalie who doesn't look petrified every time a cross comes in. I do not think Lemaine's is the finished article, but I am fed up of watching us with the worst 2 goalkeepers in the league. It's a Mr. East. I agree with you. I'm comfortable starting him if more people were like you, where you'd go, do you know what? He had a really good game overall. Yep, he flapped at that one cross. Or, he really should have done a bit better with that shot. But overall, really solid. Let's encourage it. We've lost this ability as football fans to encourage and to support. I think a lot of it is the rage bait and banter economy. So I think some people are like, how am I going to get noticed on my TikTok? How am I going to get noticed on my X? How am I going to get noticed on YouTube? I just need to be outraged by everything always. Now, that doesn't mean you can't rant, because I rant. But I don't rant every time something goes wrong. Like, you got to be calm sometimes. I don't see how anyone can always really be that angry. The other side of it is the banter economy. Everyone's going to banter me because my goalie messed up. How do I stop it? I tell you what I'll do. I'll just join forces with them so I'm not a target. Because a lot of, these strong men, everything that goes wrong in my life, even if it ain't my fault, I'm taking accountability for. I'm part of the manosphere. These guys are obviously very, very sensitive individuals. They're not as strong as they make out to be. They cannot. And you'll know who these men are in your real life. Because they're the guys that can laugh at everyone else when they're being bantered. But when it happens to them, they lose it. They get really angry and they can't handle it and they cry. That's why they join forces with rivals in football a lot of the time. If it isn't about getting noticed on socials, it's because, I can't take them having to go at me. So if I join in with them, they'll leave me alone. That's what a lot of this is. And I understand why people do it, but it ain't good for your football team. I think it's detrimental. Terry, big question. Would you put JJ Gabriel on the bench for the cup game this season? I don't subscribe to MUTV or anything like that. I don't give any money to the Glazers, and I won't give a penny to the football club of my money. I won't support the club financially until there's a public plan of action to get them out, because I don't believe in funding people or giving money to the leeches. I respect everyone who does, and that's your choice. I'm just telling you why I don't have MUTV, so you understand it. So I haven't seen this young man play. I haven't watched youth football now for 5, 6, 7, longer than that, but 8 years now, and I miss it. I was an avid watcher of the academies. I used to love knowing what was going on, how good our players were, and I miss that element, but I won't give the Glazers my money, and I stand on that. It's just my personal principle. It isn't to push it on or project it on you guys. I've heard he's very, very good, though, so I can't wait to watch him play. I really, really can't. I'm back in Bayindir to have a good run of games. He was good for Turkey. Was he in goal for the Spain game? In fairness, I did watch a lot of those goals. Maybe it's not his fault. Terry, you can watch the Man U under-18s on YouTube highlights. Yeah, but you can't assess football players really on YouTube highlights, can you? But yeah, I get your point. Terry, what were you going to say about Man United? Listen, okay. So this brings us on to this nicely. Let me start sipping my water. Hang on. So, did you all see this week on the overlap that they were talking about, that it was a hot take section, and I know Dan Lawless, who's a West Ham fan, he did this thing, and it wasn't specifically about Manchester United, but it touched on Man United heavily. And it was all about how Manchester United, along with other clubs, but United were mentioned many times, had no real global presence, weren't these giant teams that we are now before the Premier League, and we essentially got lucky. We got lucky because we hit a good run of form at the same time as the Premier League blew up, and therefore became these global stars. And had the likes of Preston or Huddersfield been in their pomp at that moment, they'd be massive football clubs as well. There is some truth to this, but it's so overstated. And I saw everyone who's not a Man United, Liverpool or Arsenal fan agree with this. I saw mainstream media outlets discuss this in front of their millions and millions of viewers and listeners. And it was spoken about like it was the gospel truth. And it triggered me, man. I can't lie. It absolutely, fundamentally, wholeheartedly triggered me. Because it's another lie. It's another absolute bull-faced lie about Manchester United. And I'm getting a bit sick and tired of it. First of all, the lies last week about Fergie spending. Yes, he broke. We reword it. He did break the transfer record 5 times on purchases, but the British transfer record never used to just be about purchases. It was purchases and sales. On purchases and sales, he broke it 3 times. But even if we just live in the incoming, yeah, he broke it 5 times. But why was he able to do that? He's at a big club, yes. Had massive success at the times that he was breaking it. And we weren't buying as many players or spending as much as our rivals because the recruitment was so amazing. All of that context left out to go, yeah, but he broke... When you just say, well, Fergie broke the transfer record 5 times, that's why he was successful. All that means to anyone who doesn't have access or doesn't go and look at the information is you forget in the first 8-9 years of the Premier League where we won the treble, the double-double, did the first three-peat, etc. He was the 10th highest spender in that time. Yes, he broke some transfer records, but the 10th highest spender. In the next period of the transfer window, when the Chelseas came in, more money was being spent by everybody, the TV money went up. Fergie did spend more, but still only ended up 4th in the overall spending by the time he retired in Premier League history. And if you add it up from 1986 when he joined until 2013 when he left, he still only comes in 4th, with Liverpool, City and Chelsea all spending more, and Tottenham Hotspur only spending around £40 million less. But none of the mainstream media outlets talk about this, and it annoys me. But saying that Man United were not a global football club before the Premier League begun is ridiculous. So I knew some of this, but I spent a few days researching it. So clip this up and just save this for yourselves. Some facts. I'm going to read this out to you here, right? Man United global presence before the Premier League, right? This is between the 50s and 1992. I want you to read some of this here. So first and foremost, right? This here says here, when English football broke into the modern era with the creation of the Premier League, Man United were in a perfect position to dominate the global front. Not just because of, this is what I read here, not just because of the new influx of TV money and viewership, is because of their already global presence. Now, of course, the disgustingly tragic Munich air disaster. What people don't realise about this is that this disaster was not just front page news in Manchester, not just front page news nationally in England, but multiple countries, including Canada, okay, and Singapore. Front headline news internationally when that plane crash happened. Why? Because the Busby Babes were a football team that were already world renowned. The Busby Babes were clapped off the football pitch at the Bernabeu for how well they played, as an example to you. So when they died, as tragic as it was, and there's no glory in that, the fact that it was front page news in Canada, Singapore as examples demonstrates the global reach the club had in the 50s. Okay? But then you move forward and you talk about, you move into these different eras of the game, and you move forward a little bit and you move into the 60s. And some of this stuff that I learned was absolutely crazy. Okay? So obviously we won the first English team to win the European Cup in 1968, but we're already very famous because we were the first club in Britain. We pioneered European football to a point where the FA didn't even want us going in Europe because the FA felt that we shouldn't be teaching the Europeans and the rest of the world watching how we play football. We should keep it in-house and keep it closed. The likes of Pele, the likes of Eusebio, the likes of Di Stefano, okay, these iconic players from the 50s and the 60s and going into the 70s. Multiple examples of them talking about United's rebuild, praising our players, and praising the structure of the football club. Again, international players from South America and Europe who consistently spoke and praised us, and their comments are out there to be seen. Manchester United also in the 50s had a sellout tour around Canada and the United States. Now, I want to put this into context. There are some Premier League teams who have only just now in the 2020s started going international when it comes to pre-season. But unless they're playing a Man United, a Liverpool and Arsenal, they can't sell out anything. Man United was selling out and drawing huge crowds. We're having sort of signing areas where thousands of people were turning up to get balls and shirts and pictures signed in the 50s. Now, you fast forward, the 60s I've already mentioned, the 50s I've already mentioned. In 1975, Manchester United had sellout tours in Iran, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand, and Australia. In 1975, this was when Man United were not even a good team, but in comparison to the 50s and 60s and what came afterwards. Okay, Man United opened the first ever, okay, this was opened in 1959. The first ever international supporters club was opened in Malta, and it's one of the biggest in the world now. In the early 80s, the Scandinavian Man United Supporters Club became the biggest international supporters club of any sports team in the world at that point, with over 30,000 members. That was in 1981, okay? It goes on and goes on. There's so much more I could read. There's so much more I could go into. The detail, as an example, the standing ovations that we had at different stadiums and different parts of the world, the great players that spoke and knew of our legends, from Beckenbauer to Cruyff to Pele to Maradona that I've already mentioned. The quotes are already out there, okay? The sellout tours that we were able to sell, no internet, no social media, but putting up posters locally in Canada, in Iran, in Singapore, saying Man United are coming to play football and selling out. I don't think young people understand how hard that was. No social media, no real advertising, a little bit on radio maybe. This was in a time where television wasn't even a big thing. Football wasn't even shown on TV that often. It was all word of mouth. Oh, people knew who Man United were by seeing the name on a poster. They weren't going, what's that? And by the way, this is in countries like America and Canada, where even to this day, football/soccer isn't even that big. And the audacity, I get fans of other clubs are not going to be educated on Man United in the same way we are. And by the way, like I said, you can read more and more. The list goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on of things that we've done in that period. But why it's so important to talk about this is because the media doesn't shut it down. TalkSport, Sky Sports, the overlap, the mainstream just lets people spout this. And then everybody starts to go, yeah, I don't know why we act like United are this giant club. They're not really. And I don't care how arrogant this sounds. It's the truth. Barring Liverpool, we are just... There are other big clubs in England. Arsenal, massive. Chelsea, massive. Spurs, very big. Okay? But they pale into insignificant, not just for our size, but the longevity that we've been this big. The longevity that we have been this big. Most of these teams now can't sell out games in America and Canada. Maybe you wouldn't go to, I don't know if they would have a sporting events like they used to in Iran. But imagine selling out like all over the world. Now listen, Chelsea and Arsenal in that can, absolutely. And the Premier League has certainly helped everybody. But this is my view on it. The Premier League became as big as it did because Man United was successful in that period. And our global reach and being successful made it blow up. Had Man United and Liverpool both been poor in the first 15, 20 years of the Premier League, it would never have grown the way it did. There's a reason that Man United and Liverpool were pitching for years to get the lion's share of the TV deal money, because up until about 15 years ago, the vast majority of viewers only tuned in to watch us globally, and a large percentage nationally as well. And this isn't about shitting on other teams or trying to make other teams sound small or bad. It's about respect. It's about respecting the heritage of this game. But Man United fans, my thing to you is learn more as well. Learn more about your club. I've watched people debate some of these accusations, and they don't know the history of our football club well enough at all. And I think if you're going to be going on television, if you're going to be going on these shows like The Overlap, your club is going to be attacked for Fergie spending, not being that big before the Premier League, and all these other things we get accused of. Fergie paying refs, and everyone just laughs and leaves it. You've got to go into all of these shows ready and armed to push back. Because when you sit there as a Man United fan, twiddling your thumbs, going, and saying nothing, or not being able to challenge it, viewers go, it might be true, Look at the Man United fans sitting there not fighting back. I don't think people understand the size of this club. And of course I want to win major trophies again, Champions Leagues and Premier League. I want to be the best because I want to be the best for winning the trophies. But there's part of me that also wants to... I don't think people understand the size of the parades, the size of the social media attention if United get back to the top. I don't even think some United fans realise the sheer size that we are. We're still one of the most televised and watched teams in the world, and we've not been good for 13 years. Can you imagine 4 or 5 years where we're the best again? Unprecedented in these times. I appreciate you all tuning in. I really, really do. Thank you all very much for being here this evening on your Friday nights. Please hit that like button before you go. Please make sure you are subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Really, really important to us that you get that done. Until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'm going to see you all